When night falls and sound withdraws, the archive remains. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. A cabinet stands where the wall is plain, not centered, not displayed. The wood carries a grain that changes with the angle of light, and the light, in early hours, moves slowly enough to be measured only by the shift of shadow along the floor. The cabinet does not follow the day. The day follows the window. A drawer is partway open. The gap between frame and drawer is thin, a dark line made by distance. Wood presses against wood at the rails. There is friction, then release, then stillness. Inside, index cards rest in rows, with a density that is not tightness but alignment. Paper edges touch, then separate by the thickness of the next card, and the entire row becomes a sequence of repeating intervals. Each card holds a name, ink in fiber, pigment held by pressure, held by dryness, held by the slight roughness that paper offers to liquid before it becomes fixed. Some names are printed, some are written. The difference is not in meaning. It is in the relation between hand and surface, a line that narrows and thickens by weight, a line that remains uniform by machine, both becoming equally still once the ink settles. The drawer remains open. Air lies across the card tops. Dust, if present, is not an event. It is a thin measure of time, a film that collects only because the air keeps moving when the drawer does not. The cabinet offers a place where motion becomes residue. The index is alphabetical, a system that places sound into order without speaking it, a sequence agreed upon by many who never meet. The letters are not heard, yet the rows obey them. A becomes a position, not a voice. Z becomes a boundary, not an ending. Between A and Z, the sequence holds every intermediate position with equal weight. No letter is more central than another. The system does not favor, it only orders. A name that begins with M holds the same relationship to its neighbors as a name that begins with B. One card of exact thickness, preceded by a gap, followed by a gap, contained by the same wood, cooled by the same air. A card is lifted. The act is small. Paper bends slightly where it is held. The card leaves behind a gap of exact width. Absence becomes measurable because paper had thickness. The gap is not emptiness. It is a shape defined by its neighbors. The card is placed on the table. The table supports it without response. Light from the window lies on the card face. The name is visible. No image accompanies it. Ink holds a pattern that could be spoken, but speech is not required for the pattern to exist. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. Breath enters, breath leaves. The room does not react to that line. The cabinet does not change. The card does not change. Only the relation between lung and air repeats, and the repetition makes a quiet interval in which nothing is retrieved. A second drawer exists beneath the first. It opens less often. The wood inside is cooler, because touch has not warmed it repeatedly. Cards there show less rounding at the corners. The paper is the same kind of paper, yet the edges hold a sharper geometry. The names are older. Ink has reduced in contrast, not by disappearance, but by the way time modifies the surface and the way light meets it. The reduced contrast is not damage. It is a record of duration. The ink that was placed with a hand or a machine at a particular moment has been present in the drawer since then, subject to the same slow cycling of humidity that affects every surface in the room. The fibers of the paper have expanded and contracted by fractions through every season. The ink has moved with them, held in place but not unchanged. What appears as fading is the accumulated record of the room's climate held in the grain. A divider reads unknown. The word is printed, not claimed as a truth, only placed as a category. Behind it, cards carry fragments, an initial, a partial date, a reference without a full name. The system makes room for incomplete entries. Even uncertainty is given an interval. The drawer stays open. Morning light continues to shift. The cabinet remains, receiving that shift without commentary. A label holder is fixed to the front of the drawer. Metal frame. A small paper card behind glass. Letters on the card indicate what the drawer contains. The label was placed there at a particular moment, and since then it has been the drawer's only declaration. It does not update itself. It does not reflect whether the contents have changed. It holds the description that was given to it, and the drawer holds whatever was placed inside, and the two may or may not agree. No mechanism reconciles them. They coexist as two separate records made at different times, held on the same surface, neither aware of the other. Midday does not arrive as a scene. It arrives as a change in angle. Shadows shorten at the base of the cabinet. The table's surface brightens. The paper becomes less dramatic, more flat, because strong overhead light reduces the depth that oblique light gives to texture. The fiber of the cards is still there, but the relation between fiber and shadow changes, and the cards appear more uniform. A finger moves along the row. Paper yields a fraction under pressure. The yield is not softness, it is compliance. The finger does not search for meaning, it follows spacing. The row becomes a tactile pattern. Card, interval, card, interval. The sequence can be navigated because the sequence is separated. Retrieval depends on margins. The index is a technology of distance. Each entry remains itself only because it does not merge with the next. A name is not protected by importance. It is protected by a small blank measure. A card falls, not violently. Gravity takes it. Paper meets floor. Sound occurs, then is absorbed by room surfaces. Wood, plaster, cloth. The porous bodies of objects that do not speak but reduce echo. The sound does not travel far. The room keeps it close. The card lies face up. Letters are legible. Recognition may or may not arise. The index does not require recognition. It requires only that letters remain attached to paper. Legibility is a relation between ink and light. Recognition is a relation between mind and pattern. The cabinet governs the first relation. The second is not within its care. Nearby, a ledger exists. The same names appear again, in columns. The ledger holds them as lines. The index holds them as cards. Two containers, two kinds of interval. In the ledger, spacing is horizontal and vertical, ruled and repeated. In the drawer, spacing is depth, paper thickness, and the small gaps created by handling. Both systems separate entries so that entries can be found. Some names in the ledger are marked with a line through them, not removal, indication. A single stroke placed across letters, leaving letters visible. A gesture that modifies the relation between eye and text without destroying text. The mark does not speak, it is simply there. The stroke was made at a particular moment, with a particular instrument, by a hand that applied consistent pressure across the letters. The letters beneath it remained undamaged. They can still be read. The stroke and the letters coexist on the same surface, at the same depth, in the same ink. Two marks on one field, neither cancelling the other, each requiring the other to be understood. Outside movement continues. Footsteps cross pavement. Vehicles pass. Voices rise and fall. The cabinet does not oppose any of it. It simply holds its interior order. The inside of the drawer and the outside street exist in parallel, separated by walls, separated by distance, separated by the kind of attention each requires. A shoji screen might be imagined elsewhere. Paper and wood arranged to divide light without stopping it. This drawer performs a similar function, but with names. It divides entries without stopping them from existing. It places a thin boundary that makes retrieval possible. The wall behind the cabinet is plain plaster, no mark on it. The cabinet stands against it without being attached. Gravity holds the cabinet in place, the same gravity that holds the cards in their rows, the same gravity that settled the dust on the card tops, the same force operating at every scale in the room, without preference and without pause. The cabinet leans into the wall by a fraction, just enough to prevent forward tipping, just enough that the wall receives a small continuous pressure that neither surface acknowledges. The repetition does not add content. It subtracts demand. It places a simple relation, air and body, beside the relations already present. Ink and fiber, wood and rail, light and paper. So the room becomes a collection of quiet linkages rather than a story that must be followed. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. The index remains open, not as invitation, not as warning, but as a state of matter held in place. Afternoon shifts toward evening as temperature in the room changes first at surfaces. Wood cools at the drawer handle. Metal on a label frame holds cold longer than wood. Paper does not feel cold by itself. It feels cold in relation to skin. The cabinet becomes a map of materials by touch alone. Light lowers. It stops entering directly and begins to slide along edges. The shadow inside the drawer deepens. Letters remain but appear to retreat because the relation between ink and illumination weakens. Nothing has been removed from the cards. Only contrast has changed. A card near the end of the alphabet is lifted. The late letters do not feel different. Only the crowding changes. Near Z, fewer entries follow. The row ends against the interior wall of the drawer. End is defined by container. The last card stands against wood. After it, no further cards exist, but the wood continues. The boundary is physical, not conceptual. If another card were placed here, the row would need to shift. Space would need to be made. The index is finite. The drawer has length. The card has thickness. This is not tragedy. It is structure. Capacity measured in millimeters. Order sustained by careful intervals. A tansu chest could hold textiles in a different room. Cedar drawers breathing a faint scent into cloth. This cabinet holds paper. Paper holds ink. Ink holds a name. Each layer depends on the one beneath it, and none of them needs to announce its role. The cedar scent that is not here is the scent of a different system, a different material chosen for a different purpose. That system and this one share only the principle, an enclosure that holds contents by separating them from the outside and from each other by measured distance. The container gives contents their location. Location is what makes retrieval possible. Without enclosure, there is no inside, and without inside, there is no finding. The unknown divider waits where it was. Cards behind it remain incomplete. An initial remains an initial. A date remains uncertain. The system does not resolve them. It only gives them a location, so that incompletion has a stable relation to the rest of the archive. A card without a full name is not a failed card. It is a card that arrived at the limit of what was known at the time it was made. The blank where a name would be is not absence by neglect. It is the accurate record of an edge, the place where knowing stopped. The archive holds this edge the same way it holds any other entry, with a position, a thickness, a gap on either side. The card that was lifted returns to its place. The gap closes, neighbors align. The row becomes continuous again. Nothing indicates disturbance except the brief memory of the gap, a shape that existed only because separation is possible. The drawer begins to slide inward. Wood meets rail. Friction returns. The sound is soft, not because it is gentle, but because the room absorbs it. Closure is a movement from light to shadow, from exposure to enclosure. The cabinet does not hide, it contains. Breath enters, breath leaves. A margin exists between breaths, a small quiet space that cannot be held, only allowed. The drawer's closing resembles that margin, a line of darkness between frame and wood that appears, then disappears, leaving the cabinet whole again. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. Evening continues. Shadows lengthen across the floor. The cabinet stands unchanged, but the room's geometry is redrawn by light. Night does not arrive as a dramatic drop. It arrives as a gradual loss of detail. The grain of the wood becomes less readable. The paper inside the drawers becomes less present to the eye. Objects remain where they are, but their edges soften because the relation between surface and light diminishes. Streetlights outside activate one by one. Their glow touches the window, but the cabinet is too far from direct spill to catch any highlight. Inside, darkness fills the drawers. The cards cool, ink rests. Dust continues its slow accumulation without being noticed. The system remains intact because systems do not depend on being watched. No alarm marks the last time a name is spoken. No ceremony records the final retrieval. The index does not grieve, does not celebrate, does not interpret. It maintains order, not as meaning, but as arrangement. In another room, a bell might hang in a temple corridor, metal waiting for impact, waiting for vibration. Here, no bell is struck. Sound is minimized by the materials: paper that does not ring, wood that dulls, air that holds quiet when not disturbed. Silence is not absence. It is a medium with low activity. The ledger remains closed. The drawer remains closed. Names remain inside, not erased, not summoned. They exist as ink on paper inside wood, and that layered containment is enough. Between one drawer and the next is a narrow strip of shadow. Between one card and the next is blank margin. Between one entry and the next is interval. The archive is made of those intervals as much as it is made of names. The separations are the infrastructure. The separations allow retrieval, and retrieval is possible even when it is not performed. The drawer that closed holds its darkness without effort. The wood does not press inward to maintain closure. It simply rests at the point where friction and weight agree. Closed is not locked. It is the position where no additional force is required. The cabinet holds its contents the way sleep holds the day. Not by force, not by intention, only by the absence of a reason to release. Outside the window, the last light of the day crosses the pavement at a low angle. It does not enter the room now. The window receives it but returns it outward. Inside, the room holds what the day left in it. The memory of light on card faces, the faint warmth the drawer handle held at midday, the dust that shifted when the card fell and settled again without being replaced. These are not records the room keeps intentionally. They are states the room arrived at through the day and has not yet been disturbed out of. They persist the way all states persist, by the absence of a force sufficient to change them. Breath enters, breath leaves. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. The cabinet stands against the wall. The room holds its quiet. The drawers hold their cards. The margins hold their spacing. Breath enters, breath leaves. No name is required. No name is called. The interval remains. The archive remains.